cavalry isn't coming. They're not here for you. They don't care about you. Get the job done, and whatever happens, happens. If a tentacled organism from an unexplored planet attaches itself on your face, make sure you get some samples first. If a monster bursts out of your chest, then we're making progress. We're learning this was the mission, but we didn't know this was the mission. You didn't need to know. You knowing is a hindrance. The cavalry isn't coming. This is Alien. Yay! Yay, Alien! It's a monster movie.
Did you know Alien is Jaws in space?
It's Jaws in space.
It's Jaws in space.
No one knew, but we know. That's why we do this podcast. We're bringing hot takes. Yeah. They're so hot. I got to get out of my hand.
We need to get like the obvious stuff out of the way first. Like, okay, it's atmosphere. It's Jaws in space.
The xenomorph doesn't come in until an hour. Now we've got the outer system. Now it's only new takes.
Now this is going to be stuff you've never heard before, guys.
Completely original. We are better than everyone. No, this is one of your favorite movies?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite sci-fi horror movies, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's virtually flawless. I can just show it real quick because I brought these just for fun.
Yeah.
I'll start small. This is a mug that I got off of Etsy.
If you're on Spotify, Chris is holding up a mug that shows like an evolution from an egg all the way to the full xenomorph. And it's really cool.
Yeah, it leads up to like the mother xenomorph that's in Aliens.
Oh yeah, the mother.
Which, just to be clear too, I have not seen any of the other Alien movies besides Alien and Aliens.
Oh, I thought you were about to say you haven't seen Aliens, and I was like, what the fuck, dude?
No, I've seen Aliens, but only one time, funny enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you gotta watch it. I mean, listen, like, we already know that they're both different movies, but Aliens is like just... It's so cool to see James Cameron make the ultimate James Cameron version of an Alien movie. Anyways.
Yeah, that's one I would love to come back to at some point. But yeah, this is also a board game that I had. You can get it in Target, and we're not sponsored or paid in any way to do this. But
we'd love to be sponsored.
This is a board game called Alien Fate of the Nostromo.
And underneath it, it says the tagline, "In space, no one can hear you scream."
Yes.
Okay, so I just gotta say really quickly, you know I'm a huge fan of packaging and marketing.
Yeah. You sounded so lame right there.
I know.
Ladies, I'm a huge package and marketing man.
No, but
I put the package in package and marketing.
You know, I'm like just a huge fan of like movie taglines, movie posters, and like the creativity that comes with a good movie tagline. In space, no one can hear you scream just might be the best one.
Just of all time.
Right. You know, that's just like all timer, right?
Rattle off a couple more that, you know, you like that maybe listeners or viewers don't know or haven't thought of.
Lethal Weapon 2, The Magic is Back. That's really good. It always puts a smile on my face. Man is the Warmest Place to Hide. The Thing is really good.
I love that one.
Oh, I mean, I listed off for our Holes episode, I listed off a great one for Agent Cody Banks. And let me read it off because I don't quite remember it.
Listeners probably did not expect that at all. Agent Cody Banks. We need to rope Agent Cody Banks into every podcast we do.
Keep talking.
Okay, yeah, we just left off at Agent Cody Banks. I have not seen that movie in a hot minute. I don't know when the last time you've seen it, Altaf, but we do have a soft spot for these classic millennial kids movies. You know, I know we watched Big Fat Liar together in 2020.
Okay, so it says, oh man, I'm sorry for the bad audio. Oh yeah, it says, save the world, get the girl, pass math. So, you know, it's like, I think a good movie tagline can either do two things. One, just put a smile on your face. The magic is back. One, make you laugh. The whole pass math thing. It's just this, oh man, I remember those days. And then one is just capture the movie's tone immediately.
Yeah, you know what else has a great one? Is a Dumb and Dumber. The tagline is, for Harry and Lloyd, every day is a no-brainer.
I mean, right?
Yeah. We just did a commentary to Dumb and Dumber for non-patron members. We feel free to check it out if you want. But I just got reminded of that joyous tagline.
Yeah. So I think this might be the best one. I mean, nothing gives me that reaction the way this one does. Also, like, I mean, come on. The title... It's Alien. Like, fuck it. It's an Alien movie. It's called Alien. Who cares? It's the best Alien movie, and it's called Alien. Like, you know when they made a movie that was called Alien, they had to make it the best one. Because if it was a lame movie, imagine if Alien was bad. and it's a movie called Alien, and you're just like, oh, it's a B movie just called Alien. What a dumb title. But the fact that it's good makes it a brilliant title.
Well, and what makes it cool too is the fact that, like, obviously, yeah, it's called Alien because it's about a fucking alien. No, of course, right? But I think a lot of the type of fear that this movie, taps into is like how foreign it is. The fact that it has that kind of bodily violation of forcefully impregnating you. Like having this thing that wraps around your neck and like it's feeding you oxygen. Like it feels like alien, like quote unquote. It has that kind of like fear of being personally violated.
Totally. I think like, the reason why we're doing this is because it's such a favorite of yours. You actually rewatch this movie a lot, and which is you're not a huge rewatcher of movies.
Yeah.
I think like early on when I met you, you were really stressing how brilliant the script is, because when I think about this movie, I think a lot about the technical aspects of it, right? Like how brilliant the cinematography is, the sound design, the editing, yada, yada, yada. The xenomorph is a practical suit. It looks so cool. The chest burster scene still holds up. But I think you were mentioning how fucking simple the screenplay is.
Yeah.
And then I read it and I couldn't believe it. They always tell you to keep your scene direction short. Don't try to go into like how the clouds are looking that day. Keep it but Alien takes that to like its nth point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, I took classes on screenplay crafting.
You always look so uncomfortable when you have to mention screenwriting school. You're like, I took You always have to like do a little.
I know. I think we're just desensitized being here in SoCal. That I just don't like, just trying to be like, hey, I do screenplay. I don't know. I just get weird about it.
But anyways,
I get insecure quickly.
Yeah.
But
no,
with that,
don't be, man.
flex my screenplay muscles. But yeah, so with that being said, though, a common thing that a lot of screenwriters do, especially beginner, is that they get so into their own heads and into their own worlds that they over-explain the set design and how every minute... They get very prosy. They write a novel, not a script.
And listen, like I guess there's no right or wrong way. I think like if you read Tarantino's scripts, he gets like really into it, like where he'll just be like inglorious 70 millimeter and stuff like that. Yeah. But this is just a great example of like efficient screenwriting.
Yeah, literally, if you pull up the script to Alien, it's one of the pinnacle, like, if you want to learn the simplicity of screenwriting, then go for the script to Alien. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to write scripts. Because literally, it'll just be like, a dark hallway, buttons whirring. then the scene starts.
Let me just read off like the first couple of like scenes.
Yeah, go for it.
This is the movie's this is the way the script starts. Fade in sometime in the future. Interior engine room, empty, cavernous. Interior engine cubicle, circular, jammed with instruments, all of them idle. Console chairs for two, empty. Interior oily corridor, long, dark, empty, turbos throbbing, no other movement. It's like just that.
It's really simple and to the point.
For like a whole fucking page. And I even like the way the movie like opens. You see that amazing haunting reveal of the Alien title.
Yeah.
Right? And then it just shows the like how many passengers there are, where they're going, what they're carrying in their cargo. But it almost feels just like an instructional video.
It's very cold.
Yeah, the font, there's nothing fancy happening with the font. It's very simple.
Well, it just, there's always this aura of coldness all around the entire movie.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what makes it so effective. Obviously, you brought this up on the phone with me recently, but a lot of what this movie taps into is how kind of heartless corporations are and how little they give a shit about the actual workers and only care about its end results, which is kind of what you explored in literally your synopsis in the opening of this podcast.
Yeah, so like I said, what I always remembered about this movie, and again, this was a movie that I only saw like once or twice. It's not a movie that I like rewatched a lot for I don't know why, but I think I always remembered it as this like brilliant monster horror movie, not really remembering a lot of its like themes about like just like corporate America and like the way like the company, as it's called, doesn't really give a shit about the humans.
Yeah.
It cares about the bottom line, and it will do anything to service the bottom line, to the point where it doesn't even trust the humans, so it hires Ash, the fucking AI robot, to handle things if things go awry. Like and
the only one that will blindly follow the corporation is a fucking android. That says something, huh? If that's not powerful storytelling.
And it's very dire to watch that kind of shit in 2024. And along with the whole, like, Ripley not wanting to let Kane in after he was attacked by the facehugger and be like, we need to quarantine him, and them all fighting about that, hearing the word quarantine in 2024.
Just sets off painful memories immediately.
And I remember you responded and you were just like, well, yeah, I mean, 2024, it's extremely relatable for the AI and the COVID reasons. But then also, like, this movie could be looked at in terms of a metaphor for the Industrial Revolution, or like you can.
Well, yeah, any essentially like history of larger people in power not caring about the little guys because they only care about the outcome of the project, which, yeah, like we said, in the Industrial Revolution, children got sick every 5 seconds. They did not care. They were making money.
I think what we're coming to terms with nowadays, though, is like we're getting closer and closer to the future that these sci-fi movies always were warning us about. And that's what's getting scary about it. And that's why it's especially scary to watch this movie. And that's what actually makes it so much more effective, is that, like, that's the best kind of sci-fi right? It's just like, it's telling something about now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I like to cite this, and I probably have cited it before, but I've always loved Alan Moore's quote when he talked about V for Vendetta and how he says...
Yeah, I remember you talked about it in Starship Troopers when we were doing the podcast for it.
Yeah, so to be quick about it, though, he basically says, when you're writing about the future, you're really writing about the present.
How did that make you? Because you know me, I get very anxious about the whole AI stuff, and I get very cynical about just like where we're going when it comes to how tech companies are using us and have had us hooked with the algorithm, and how we can't get off certain things because now we're so reliant upon it. And how every type of, like, when it comes to content, it's all being feeded to us exactly the way we want it, so we're not exploring new things. I'm very cynical, and I get scared and anxious about that kind of stuff.
And the irony is we're in a space that relies on that too.
I know. And we're using it. We're creating thumbnails to make sure it hits our audience perfectly, all that stuff.
We edit
right?
fast-paced and...
Exactly, to make sure the retention's keeping up. So I get really scared about that stuff. So when I watch a movie like Alien, at this age I'm in, with my newfound anxiety about AI and all this stuff, it affects me way more, which is a compliment to the movie. But how does it make you feel?
I feel like all of history has these types of cynical dystopian takes. If you go back to, like, novels that were written in the 50s and 60s, they always had these kind of warnings about where humanity goes. And that's what's interesting about sci-fi. I'm pretty ignorant in a lot of that stuff, and it's hard for me to just completely look at it in a bleak mind. I think the world will always be complicated shades of gray where there will be good and bad things that come out of it. Because, yeah, AI can be scary in its own way, but I'm sure it can also be tremendously helpful in a lot of other ways. I'm sure people will find ways to use it that could make advances in science and medicine and those sorts of things. So... But like I said, I have to clarify, I am pretty ignorant in a lot of that stuff, so it's hard for me to fully weigh in and get into it. And, like, oh, let's talk about that.
Because I don't think, like, 10 years ago, I would have been affected the same way I was watching the Ash scene when he was, like, dying.
Yeah.
The way I am now. Though, like, the way I am now, that scene, like, I probably can't watch again just because it's too much for me.
What about it? What about it's too much for you?
I think...
Because I love that scene. That's, like, probably my favorite scene in the whole movie is the Ash's severed head warning them all about the xenomorph and, having this weird love for it at the same time because it's so cold. And he literally says, like, it doesn't adhere to weaknesses like morality. Is so eerie. It's so effective.
Well, the fact that the company doesn't trust humans and it hires a robot, like I said, right? Which is, I think, like, you see a lot of these big tech companies not really caring about the people and how they're consuming it. They're caring about the bottom line of how we can get our products in front of as many people as possible. If you watch Eddie Burbach's video on the Apple Vision Pro, he explores that concept brilliantly. And so the fact that it's admiring this organism, but it's admiring it because it doesn't have the flaws that human has, which it says it's like the perfect organism. Its structural perfection is only matched by its hostility. That was the quote, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant writing, but it's terrifying because it's like, look at this person. It doesn't let emotions get in the way. It doesn't let, it always is moving forward. And that's how, like, I feel like a lot of these fucking tech giants look at what they're building. Yeah. We're moving forward, and forward is always good, And he's always so impressed by, like, just its survival instincts, its way of adapting, which is, I think, a lot of the people who defend AI aside from the medicine and like the scientific improvements it can maybe make to our bodies, a lot of people who defend AI in terms of creativity and art, they always talk about it as it's the next step
Yeah.
in like as a tool for the artist. And I'm like, it's hard for me to see that. I feel like it's only taking away from art because it's not actually allowing artists to fully express themselves. And like, art is messy, art is not clean. But what Ash is impressed by with the Xenomorph is that it is perfect. It doesn't let anything get in the way. And I think what's special about this movie is that Ripley goes back to save the cat, and all of us in the audience for years and years have always said, what a fucking stupid decision, just save yourself. But what the point the movie's trying to make is that that's what makes humans special, is that we'll go back and save the cat. Even if like a fucking xenomorph, the perfect organism, is after you and it might be the dumbest decision you could make, you're going to go back to save the cat. So all that being said, like that scene where Ash is dying and then he says the famous line, "I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies."
Yeah,
I mean,
with this little shit-eating grin before he dies.
It's almost like for me, the way I read it is the way like fucking Elon Musk will be on like on these interviews and he'll just be like, "You don't want to advertise on X? Fuck you." Like, I don't even care. You don't like, you can complain, but you have no effect. We're still going to move forward. We're still going to call it X. We're still going to charge you. Like all that shit. Like, I feel like it adds so much weight now. Again, I'm saying this as like, I'm impressed that this movie is able to make me feel that way. It's a movie that came out in 1979 and it's still so resonant. I mean, like, come on, you know?
Yeah.
Not many movies are able to achieve that. You know, and so I went on a rant, but that's kind of how it made me feel. You know,
Fair enough. You ain't wrong. You know, I think it's definitely very interesting. Like, I think I go back and forth when it comes to a lot of that stuff where
I know you're more in the optimistic end of the
I
spectrum.
don't even know if I'm optimistic. I think I'm just more neutral. You know, I think there's going to be both things to be optimistic about and things to be really pessimistic about. And so,
But I mean, like, you know, here's the thing. I will say, I'm not going to go on this rant forever. Like, I don't want to bum everyone out in this podcast, but like, I think that's my favorite thing about movies. Why I love just art in general, but specifically movies, is that they help me manage my own feelings.
make you feel heard.
Yeah, and through other characters, through other scenarios, the best type of movies are the ones that make me feel heard and make me think about myself a bit more in a deeper way and think about the world around me in a deeper way. Like, those are my like favorite type of movies. Now, listen, I also love fucking Fast Five, and I love Hoobie Halloween, and I love the dumb shit. But like, I think the best kind of movies are able to make you think differently about the world.
Oh yeah, of course. Or challenge what you thought about the world too, or open your eyes to a different group of people or a different life experience we haven't thought about before. There's a lot that, of course, that's what the very nature of art is. That.
Yeah, listen, guys. I understand that this is a monster movie, so I'm not just trying to say like Elon Musk and X is like Ash and the Xenomorph. Like, but I mean, like, I hope people understand what I'm trying to get at. You know?
Yeah, and I like to hope that, because AI is not going anywhere, right? It's only gonna become more and more normalized. I like to hope that more people will use it to help their creative process, not make things for them, but help people's creative process, whether it's organizing things or finding a certain way to, like, you know, make your creativity more enhanced in some sort of way.
Yeah,
That's what I like to hope. I think I'm just going to leave it at that, is I hope people use it right.
You know, at the end of the day, like, okay, if you want to take it back to this movie's like semi-optimistic look at humans in a way, like, I don't think it's that optimistic about humans. I think it's very cynical about humans, actually.
Yeah.
This movie, but when it looks at Ripley, the way I said Ripley saving the cat is the movie's way of showing us that, like, with all the humans' flaws, there's still some good in there. You know what I mean? It's Sam's whole speech in Lord of the Rings. I'm not gonna say it, but like,
No, just give me something.
I can't. No,
give me a quote. Give me like a, you know, there's some good Mr. Frodo. Like, give me something.
Sometimes when so much bad happens in the world, we wonder to ourselves, would anything good ever happen again? But it will, Mr. Frodo, because there's still some good in this world worth fighting for. I'm butchering it, but I mean, you get the idea, and I already want to cry.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring your mood up a little bit.
But what I'm trying to say is that the whole Ripley saving the cat, being at this look of just like humans will do some good, is the way I look at what you just said, of just like, even if AI is going to replace jobs, which it will, and even if AI is going to make a movie in one day, which it maybe will, there are still humans out there that want to express themselves through art, and they're going to do that. Whether it be through other avenues, who knows? But there's always going to be people there that need to express what's inside in an artistic format, and that's going to happen.
And they're going to be people that are moved by authentic art too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not even just people who are going to make it, but the people who receive art too are smart enough to know the difference.
Well, you look at also just like fucking
Like food.
I know. Well, I mean, I know, and like food, but also you look at even like with movies, especially. You know, how many people now are just like fucking appreciating Barbie and Oppenheimer for what it was, which is like there's real people with real craft that came together to make this thing, you know, and we're respecting the artist, you know. So, anyways, back to Alien. I don't want to get too far off the boat here. This is like a perfect study guide to a type of filmmaking that I think is timeless, which is just patient and efficient filmmaking. You know, like I think if you're a film student or if you just want to learn more about filmmaking, just watch this movie over and over again. You can pick up so much. We already talked about the screenplay, how simple it is, but also just like the first 5 minutes are truly them establishing the ship. You hearing the machinery, which later on in the movie is used as like sound design to add to the tension. And you're meeting these people who are like blue collar people. Like they are all like tired and you can tell from their faces and performances that they've been there for a minute. They're ready to go home. It like I said, it takes an hour for us to see the full xenomorph. Before that, we're establishing all their dynamics. Even when they're landing on the foreign planet, it takes like a solid few minutes for them to land.
I know. And the small interactions they have with each other, there's immediately this work language that they all use with each other that feels like they're talking to each other like coworkers, not friends. And that relates to what we were just talking about regarding corporations, is that like immediately Parker is complaining about whether or not they're going to get paid or whether or not this is in their job description to go and, you know, take on this rescue mission.
Well, there's also what I like about it is that there's cliques, clearly. Like, you can see, like, Dallas and Ripley are close together. Parker and Brett are, like, the engineers that are kind of like, they don't understand the kind of work we do down here. What is Ripley coming down here for? She better stay out of my way.
Yeah, there's immediately this workplace set up to it. Like, if you think of, you know, even like fucking Titanic, there's the dudes that are at the bottom that are shoveling all the coal, you know?
No, I mean...
And then The Office, there's all the factory workers that actually manufacture the paper.
Oh, you mean like the show The Office?
Yeah, sorry. To clarify, the show The Office.
You went from Titanic to like Dunder Mifflin. Like you gotta... I think it's honestly something I don't really see that often. It's a very realistic way to show like how this ship is managed. I mean, Ridley Scott's really good at that just because like years later he makes The Martian and he's kind of doing the same thing. I mean, obviously The Martian has a much lighter comedic tone to it, but it does the same thing when it's showing like character dynamics and establishing them really early with no flair, you know?
Yeah, he's building the rules of the world. He's establishing exposition.
Dude, when Ridley Scott is good, he's so good. Like when he like is on his shit, he's so on his shit, it's not even funny. Like, because like, I think with him, what he's really good at, again, when he's hitting, you know, to use young people terms.
When he's hitting?
Yeah, when he's hitting.
There's young people?
Yeah, they be hitting, you know?
Yeah, keep going.
What he does really well is that just being like, okay, I'm not going to use any flashy, like, filmmaking here. What you need to see is you need to see the ship in a clean, like, wide shot. What you need to see these characters talking to each other, using the language they use to each other, having lunch. Because if we do that, then later on in the movie, you understand the dynamics and you understand what's at stake here. And you understand why these characters are being paired up with each other. Extremely simple, very quick, gets to the point. And it just knows what it needs to do. It's like, that's why I'm saying it's like a great like tool for like beginning filmmakers. To just watch it and be like, this is it. You just watch this movie, you could like learn a lot. Like in like, you know, watching a Tarantino movie or watching like those big like Paul Thomas Anderson movies are great. And maybe you could pick up some skills there too. I'm not saying that.
Like you're talking about like hyper stylized movies.
Yes. But and maybe the like the Daniels or whatever, right? And you can learn all those from the greats. But if you watch Ridley Scott when he's on his shit, he's always done that.
Yeah. I mean, would you say then you're ready to take on just like the greatest project ever? Because you've learned a lot now?
Yes, I will make my alien.
Okay, cool.
I saw you kind of prepping for a bit. Like you immediately, I felt like your posture changed. Like while I was going on that rant, you were just like, your hands crossed.
Well, the hands crossed, funny enough, was separate because I'm trying to get better at mic etiquette. So I'm like, okay, if I lock my hands here, I'm gonna be, a little more clear into the mic so I don't get too far back. I just remember something as well about the Alien board game. Can I show it to you real quick?
Oh, yeah.
So you can see this general artwork for this is another. We highly recommend visiting the YouTube channel if you're not on it. But if you look right here, you can clearly see Jonesy right there on the side, and it's actually like incorporated into the game in itself.
Yeah. I think like it is great that Jonesy became like the icon of this movie. Like I love how that board game doesn't have the xenomorph head in it. It has the cat. Like
Yeah.
it's just like it gets it.
Well, because like the game, and I'll just quickly, the game's pretty cool. It's a co-op game. Everyone works together and plays as different characters that are crew members of the Nostromo.
Yeah.
And each one has like different skills. So like if you play as Dallas, you can move less, but you can do more stuff. Like you have to craft items and survive the alien, basically. That's the concept. But Jonesy is incorporated into it because I think the cat can like scare you and make you move to another room or you lose a turn or something like that.
Oh.
I think there's like there are like cards you can pull where you're like, oh fuck, it's Jonesy. Okay, I have to do this.
Yeah. What a brilliant like tool to use just to add a cat in there.
I know. Well,
And then to like make that part of the tension of just like we need to get the cat so we're not tracking the wrong thing.
yeah, exactly.
I kind of want to touch a little bit on what makes Ripley just one of the great protagonists, in cinema. I fucking hate like doing that.
What, saying like great protagonists in cinema?
Well, not just that, but like, you'll see those like fucking like comments and it'll just be like, this opening scene to this 1970s movie that I like is the best opening scene in cinema history. Or this character eating this food is the best eating scene in cinema history. It gets super specific too.
yeah, one of the best character reveals in cinema history, or those types of things.
I'm like, guys, come on. Like, we got to stop using these superlatives, but maybe I'm just the fucking cranky, cynical one.
No,
now.
I think it's like also because we're both online and are hyper aware of ourselves and what we say. Because not only hyper online, but we're hyper online like movie people, and so naturally, a lot of the stuff we're going to consume is like movie reviews and analysis. So we're going to hear the same thing and read the same thing again and again.
If you couldn't tell from the opening of the podcast how we were immediately critical about what everyone else has said about Alien.
Yeah, because we're like, we even talk to each other like, okay, well, there's like a cajillion other Alien podcasts out there, so how can we take this on and then
Anyways, something that no one's talked about, what makes Ripley a great protagonist?
Yeah, I know, right? Let's lean into that.
So first of all, like, and this is kind of like, this leads into Aliens, the sequel, very brilliantly too, but she's questioning everything, everyone, always on the side of caution, which, when you're an audience member going into Alien, and I bet this was the case in 1979, you're going into a horror movie. So, like, when there's a character questioning everything, you as an audience, even though everything else is going on fine in the scene, you're immediately attaching yourself to that character. Because you're like, that's what I'm thinking. Something's about to fucking go down. So Ripley's right to be cautious here. Let's not just let this fucking Kane with the face hugger in.
Yeah, exactly. She was the only one who died on that hill, basically.
Something that makes a great protagonist, not all the time. Obviously, you have characters like Travis Bickle and stuff like that, but something that makes a strong protagonist most of the time is when you're able to immediately connect to it as an audience member. I mean, something that's really cool about Taxi Driver is that there are points of that movie where you are actually on Travis Bickle's side, and then you're like kind of realize you're like, wait, whoa, he's fucked up.
Yeah, he changes your mind about a couple things throughout Taxi Driver for sure.
Brilliant about Taxi Driver, but
you want to talk about Taxi Driver?
Yeah, let's fucking talk about Taxi Driver. But also just like, I think she is someone that like you can also, this might be weird to say, but look up to with how like kind of blunt she is and how straight to the point she is.
That's not weird to say.
Yeah, like the way like Lambert, when after Brett dies, that first kill where you see the xenomorph and everything, Lambert immediately is just like could he want him alive? Like, is Brett still alive? And Ripley's immediately like, no. I mean, I don't think so. Like, she's like, oh wait, I shouldn't just say no.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
That reminded me of you a lot. I'm like, oh yeah, wait, you're gonna feel bad. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I know. I got to cushion the blow because clearly you're stressed.
But on top of all that, She's still scared and still vulnerable.
Yeah. She's just as panicked as the rest of us, but she's just processing it differently than everyone else. But
Like when Dallas dies, like there are scenes where she's like breaking but trying to keep it together. Like that brilliant like shot where it's a side profile where she's like not even looking at Ash, but she's like, Ash, have you talked to Mother? And then Ash is like, we're still collating. Still collating. And she like breaks a little bit, but she's still trying to hold it in. Brilliant Sigourney Weaver. Like just, I mean, come on.
it's her iconic role.
The last 15, I mean, this was her third movie.
Yeah.
And the last 15 to 20 minutes truly just cement her as a movie star. Like, it's like the reason she is who she is now.
Now she ended up becoming the warden on Holes. Like, that's really what led her there.
Yeah, and it's just like, if she didn't have Alien, who would have played that warden?
Who would have played the... Can you name someone you would have wanted to play the warden
maybe
on Holes?
Meryl Streep?
Maybe.
Yeah, but even like, I feel... maybe she could. But also just like, it wouldn't be... Like, Sigourney Weaver brings this just like... I can't see Meryl Streep in the desert. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Meryl Streep can do everything, but she can't be in the desert.
Yeah, she just looks like she'd be supremely uncomfortable in the desert.
Yeah, and I'm sure she's like great at it. She'll probably do it and we were all changing our minds. But like, there's something about Sigourney Weaver when she gets out of that car and starts saying, excuse me, where I'm like, oh my God, everyone back the fuck up.
Yeah, no, totally. Right, anyway, though.
Everyone knows we love Holes.
But yeah, going back to the character of Ripley, I think as well too, because it taps into the themes that we were just talking about of like, she's very in touch with her humanity. And I think that's like a very important distinction because obviously she wouldn't let them in because she was following protocol. But like you said, she goes back for the cat still.
Yeah.
She isn't just blindly following authority.
Totally.
And she actually argued because Dallas, the one who is in charge, says that's an order, open this. She wasn't locking them out of the ship because of just protocol purely. It was also for genuine safety.
Dallas is also giving a type of performance. I forget, what's the actor's name who plays Dallas? Do you know?
I don't know, no.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys, but I'm going to look it up. Oh, yeah, Tom Skerritt.
Okay,
what else has Tom Skerritt been in? Do you recognize that actor?
I recognize the name. I hear that name a lot.
Okay, sorry, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to look it up. Chris, say something.
Where I first heard the word Tom Skerritt was... that video, Shoes, Let's Get Some Shoes with, by Kelly. It's one of the first viral videos on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
When it cuts between all of their thoughts, you hear Shoes, PlayStation, fiscal responsibility. And then the mom goes, Tom Skerritt. I swear to God, that's the first time I ever heard the word Tom Skerritt.
God, what a classic, huh? Tom Skerritt, I know him from Top Gun.
Oh, shoot, he was in Top Gun. I didn't know that.
Yeah, anyways. Tom Skerritt, like, I was like, if there was like a modern recasting of this, 100% Josh Brolin's got that role. Like, that was such a Josh Brolin type part where he's kind of frustrated at everyone, but is still trying to be a leader. Like, Josh Brolin always has this vibe. I'm thinking more of Dune right now, but like, he always has
Not Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos. Yeah, maybe Thanos too, but Dune especially. It's always this vibe of just like, yes, I'm good at what I do, but I'm also angry at everyone. I'm also frustrated. Yeah. Dallas just has this vibe throughout the entire movie where he's like, listen, we're all dying. Like, he has that kind of vibe where he's like, we're all fucked, but yeah, I guess I'll lead and I guess I'll try to find the xenomorph, but we're all dying.
He's given the burden of leadership.
Yeah, and he like wears it on his like fucking shoulders.
Yeah.
When Ripley and Dallas are having like, when Dallas is trying to like split everyone up, and he's like, okay, someone has to go through that vent. I think it was Lambert who said that, and Ripley's like, I'll do it. He's like, no, you're gonna stick with Ash. And like Ripley just looks at Dallas, and that's just a great Ripley moment. I love how she was just like, I'll go through that vent. Like, you're fucking going through that vent? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And you can tell when Dallas is going through there, she does not want to fucking be there.
I know. That's what I also liked, is that they weren't dumb. None of the characters were dumb the entire way through. No. They made mistakes, but they weren't dumb.
It's the ultimate, like, and I think the only thing that people have argued about is the cat, which again, I defend wholeheartedly. That's the point the movie's trying to make, that she goes back to get the cat. It doesn't work if she doesn't go back to get the cat. But the great thing that this movie does is every horror movie has those moments where you're like, these characters are stupid, fucking just go to that room, why are you doing this?
Of course, yeah. That's the nature, every horror movie has that.
This movie addresses all those things and why they can't do it. It's almost like a legal document. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, it takes like one step at a time, and the fact that it's an alien, it's not like it's some crazy killer or a human or something you can really cooperate with and understand. That it's an alien that has its own rules because it's from fucking space. So you don't know what it does. So they discover one new rule at a time. So the first thing is they discover it has acid blood because they try to cut it out of, what's his face?
Kane.
Because they try to cut it out of Kane.
Played by John Hurt, man.
I know.
So good.
Which real quick shout out to John Hurt because he's popped up on our channel a couple times now.
Yeah, I mean, he's just one of the great British actors.
Yeah, because we got a lot of shit in the comments of our V for Vendetta when we were like, oh, that actor's great. People in the comments.
I mean, that's fucking John Hurt,
Yeah, we got roasted pretty good for it.
Much well-deserved. Okay, so before we move on, though, can we talk about the facehugger scene? Because it's like one of my favorite.
Yeah,
okay.
of course. So
they go. I'm not going to yada through this real quickly, but they go to the planet. Kane comes across the egg, one of the fucking coolest movie props ever, right? Like,
oh yeah,
the way it's glowing outside,
and you can see the little the tendrils moving around underneath it.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal.
So good. So Prometheus has like a scene like that. I don't want to describe it because I need you to watch Prometheus.
Okay, cool. And don't spoil it for our listeners too, just in case they haven't seen it.
There's two scenes when I watch Prometheus. There's two scenes in Prometheus where I'm just like, fucking Ridley, you did it again. Anyways, Prometheus is so good. Anyways, Kane gets the facehugger strapped onto him, and to this day, I think that is more disturbing than any of the xenomorph scenes to me. And I think that's because it's shot in this like white sterile room where you can see it very clearly. Now listen, I love that the xenomorph is like clearly like a guy, but there's something about it where you're like, oh well, there's a dude in that costume. When it cuts to close-ups of the mouth, it's actually really menacing, but it's still part of it's like there's a dude in that costume. Again, I don't mind it. I actually think that's really fucking cool. But I think the facehugger is more disturbing, shot in like bright white lighting, and it's doing these 70s zooms towards the tentacle wrapping around its neck.
Well, yeah, you know, because it's when they are trying to figure out how to remove the knuckles. Or not remove it, but they're kind of pulling on its knuckles with like a pair of tongs.
And that's where the acid comes out, right?
Not yet. No, they cut it when the acid comes out. But they try to see how they can take it off. And then you just see the neck tightening on. Like it's holding onto him tighter. Like it's resisting being pulled off.
And again, it's doing these zoom ins to the neck, to the head, like getting like closer and further away. And then like it's very quiet. They're all just kind of trying to figure out what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
And it's so eerily quiet, you know? There's no tense music as they're doing the incision. It just fucking sucks to watch.
Yeah, it's very cold. I keep saying that, but that is like the thing that, you know, that's recurring through this. It's very cold.
I don't know, man. That image is just going to be in my mind forever, right? Since the first time I watched this movie, like, and forever and ever. The image of like Kane with his head wrapped with the facehugger.
Yeah.
So fucking cool.
It's so uncomfortable to look at.
And it feels like true invention because I'm like, I haven't seen something like that.
I'm not going to get into this because you and I are a couple guys and just feels we're not the right people to approach this, but there's a lot of video essays and not video, but essays and scholarly analysis of how this movie's kind of a metaphor for, you know, basically sexual violence.
Yeah.
And you can find a lot of more better written pieces than we can talk about.
Yeah, people have talked about how like the xenomorph head is shaped. The way it's shaped is very specific.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do you have anything to say about this? Because I don't know. I felt like this scene still like this is the scene I go back to watch on YouTube all the time.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I always put myself in the shoes of people who've never seen this movie before because it's so iconic, right? We saw it parodied on Spaceballs in that reaction video we did. It's like, hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Well, that's just Chestburster.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
I'm talking about the facehugger.
So before it bursts out of his chest, just everything just leading up to it.
That scene specifically.
It's still incredibly haunting because it feels like, yeah, they're studying in the behavior of an animal that's basically like almost like watching a spider eat its prey or something like that.
Now, we can talk about the Chestburster. I just don't know what else we can say about it because it's like, I don't know, it's like been talked about to death. Like we all know the stories of it, right? Like I think there was a story that other actors didn't know. You never heard about that? Okay,
no.
Maybe we should talk about it.
Yeah, share it with me.
I thought you knew about it. Give me 1 second.
Well, I'm going to include all this, by the way, just because I think it's really important to stay candid and raw.
Yeah. Okay, so apparently there's a rumor. Now, like, I think John Hurt said it in the DVD commentary, but, like, the other actors didn't know what was going to come out. Like they didn't, because it's a practical effect, right?
Yeah,
You see,
yeah,
like,
a
that's
real prop came out.
but they didn't tell the actors what was going to come out. So that reaction of them being like, "Oh my god," is like really real.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
You didn't know about that?
No, I never knew about that.
Okay, well, I'm glad we talked about it. It's a pretty it's a story that people have told over.
Everybody
and over
knows that, Chris.
again. Get out of here.
Yeah, what are you doing podcasting about movies? You ain't know that trivia.
Now it just cuts back to you and it's just an empty chair. No, yeah, I mean, do you have anything to say about the chest burster scene?
The chest burster scene. I mean, I think the main thing I love about it is how the escalation feels so real because they're all laughing for like in the span of probably about like 20 seconds. They go from laughing to like absolute panic, trying to put a thing in his mouth so he can bite onto, not knowing what's happening. And then all of a sudden just blood just spurts out of him. It's just like it escalates so quickly and it looks so real. It doesn't look like any of the actors were prepared for that moment to happen.
No.
And so
it's just fucking cool, man. It's just like when it pops out and it's like real, it's nothing's better. Like it's such, I gotta say really quickly, this is just such a good looking movie. It feels very lived in. This ship feels very lived in. The cinematography is just fucking beautiful. Like every shot, I'm just like, oh my God. The sound design, and like the craftsmanship going on in here is insane. But like what's crazy is the cinematographer has done not that many movies. I'm going to say his name really quickly. Sorry, give me 1 second. Derek Van Lent. So
okay.
he and Ridley Scott knew each other because Ridley Scott is a big commercial director. He's directed a lot of commercials. Okay. And he did a lot of commercials with Ridley Scott. He shot a lot of his commercials. And
I've never heard someone say commercials so many times in the span of like 10 seconds.
I'm going to say a few more. And then after this movie, he did a few others, but mostly just continued to do commercials, right? And I think it's like interesting because when you're doing commercial directing, you have to be extremely efficient. You have to be fast. And I think that's what Ridley Scott has always done. I mean, this is a guy that's pumping out House of Gucci and Last Duel in the same year. Like, you know what I mean? He's just like, he still is on his bullshit. Like, he's just like, Napoleon the next year. I don't give a fuck. Gladiator 2 this year. Like, I think that's kind of what's very clear about this movie. The fact that it's very storyboarded, very planned out. And nothing seems wasted. Not an edit seems wasted.
It's very precise. You know, one of my favorite little moments is when Dallas is going up to Mother and he logs that little card in. You know how it makes that little, like, almost sounds like printing that little, I don't know how to mimic it. You know, you guys can take a sound bite of that if you want. But that's one of my favorite sound effects in there. I don't know why. It's just weird. Really? It's like crack to me. It's like so satisfying.
My favorite in terms of sound design is when Brett is walking in trying to look for Jonesy and you suddenly start hearing like the chains. Yeah, you knew it right when I was
combined with the dripping sounds too.
Yeah, then there's also this like feeling of like this like heartbeat type sound. Did you hear that?
I don't think
it's
so.
It's like this pulsing sound.
Okay.
And it feels like a heartbeat, but it's supposed to be like part of the machinery. Yeah. And I'm like, that's fucking cool, man. Who thought of that idea? I don't know. It's like, you know, we talk about Quiet Place and how it opened up a lot of people's ears to sound design. This movie's the same thing. If you want to study sound design, like watch this fucking movie. Dude,
when the first moment when the alien comes out, you just see it out of focus, just sort of.
Okay, fuck it. Do you want to talk about it? Because I got a lot of
let's
shit
not
to say.
talk about the first alien reveal scene. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah. Never mind. Okay, also, my heart goes out to Brett. You know, just
poor guy.
Poor guy. I do love this scene where it's Brett, Parker, and Ripley all trying to be like, okay, it's in that locker. They open it and the cat runs out. He's like, Brett! And it's like, it was a cat. And then Parker kind of just laughs.
Yeah.
Because his buddy's just kind of dumb.
But then they actually make a reasonable point too. That Parker says like, no, we need to catch it because we're going to get it mixed up in our motion tracker again.
But there's such a real moment when Parker does chuckle, and it kind of feels like you and me a little bit, where it just like it's just like we just every now and then when you and I flub on something, do something dumb, we kind of just let out a little funny laugh.
Yeah, we'll laugh it off pretty quickly.
It feels like a real friend thing, you know. But anyways, Brett goes on this journey to find Jonesy. Right? And he starts going to the room and it's slowly like, again, the sound design is very specific. You hear the dripping sound, then you hear the chains. There's no music, which is again crazy. Then he finally finds the cat. But it takes so much time. It takes an eerily amount of time. Like when the water's dripping, he kind of takes a little shower.
Yeah.
The lighting is just immaculate. So fucking perfect. Finds the cat, looks at the cat, but the cat's looking at something else. Suddenly, fucking mommy appears.
And it's like, again, like I said earlier, it's like perfectly out of focus. It sort of just it just appears.
It slithers in. That's the moment where it was like the popcorn moment for me. Because, again, I was watching this movie and kind of admiring its efficiency and all the shit that I've said.
You admired its purity?
Admired its purity. And then when it shows up, I'm like, oh, fuck, it's a movie.
Yeah, it's like the you're going to need a bigger boat or something like that. It's like the equivalent to that.
When it's feeding its chum and then suddenly, like,
It just is there. You're like, what the fuck?
And then there's that iconic shot of Brody whipping into camera. God, so good. Jaws is great. Let's watch that. So, the design of this alien. Listen, like the writer has said that it's inspired by so many other like monster movies and stuff like that, especially its shape and all that stuff. But I mean, it's a true invention, and this kind of changed alien design. I feel like you can watch other alien movies in like modern day, and they're all kind of doing a version of xenomorph. It's so iconic, and it's so fucking cool to this day. Like, everything about it, right? The way it opens its mouth and then another piece comes out, and the way it cuts, whenever it cuts to a close-up, it feels like it's grinning at some points. You're like, is it fucking being a stinker?
Yeah. Yeah, and it has the snarlingness to it, and it's always like just drooling.
The drool.
Too.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, did you see the Alien Romulus poster?
Yeah. How it's just, the side view of the xenomorph just dripping.
Like the big drool, yeah.
I think like one of my favorite interpretations of the xenomorph outside of the first movie is in the video game Alien Isolation.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I fucking love that game. It's basically like it captures the tone of the first one really well. The whole kind of selling point of that game is the AI of the xenomorph is not scripted. That's always like the famous thing people talk about with that game. Basically meaning like that the alien is unpredictable. It's not like it goes to one area and you hide from it, then it goes to another area, you hide from it.
Like if you died and then you respawn, you can't just do the same steps. It'll be going at a different place.
Exactly.
I remember watching you play it, and I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna play this game. Like,
It's incredibly stressful, and the alien's not always visible. You'll be traveling around the ship, and you can just kind of occasionally check your motion tracker, but you can feel it like it might be in the air vents at any point while you're playing.
It captures that feeling that this movie captures very well.
Totally. And so the behavior of the alien feels very, much like the movie, when it hops down, and you can't kill it. You can never kill it. You can do things to temporarily scare it away. Like if you throw a fire bottle at it, it'll just run up into the vent and then giving you a chance to escape and hide again. But all you can do at the end of the day is just escape it.
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool. It gives you that feeling of watching the movie, but you're now one of the characters.
Yeah.
When it comes to like true invention with the alien, also, we barely touched on it, but like even the fucking ship, like when they get to the planet and you see like this weird, like, it looks like kind of like a horseshoe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I never thought of that.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But then when they end, because I saw it in Prometheus again too, and I was like, oh, it's anyways. But and then they go into the interior of it, and the walls are like weird and slimy looking, and then you get to like basically the motherboard, the central point of it, and there's this like weird design. Again, it's like, it feels, this is dumb to say maybe, but it feels truly alien. It doesn't feel like part of our technology.
Yeah, well, yeah, and they're these big skeletons on like this, like, not like a Gatling gun, but like it looks like a giant cannon or something,
Yeah,
and
I know. Which again, I think people know this because it's a prequel. Prometheus does dive deep into that.
I'm sure it does,
which is fucking cool. But anyways,
yeah. So I think there is already kind of a like, not like an imbalance, but because you know more about it. But I think without the context, it still just looks really strong on its own. And it uses these really big, like, wide shots, too, to show how kind of small they look next to all of it.
Well, yeah. And then, like, I think another movie that did that when it comes to, like, showing the alien, but also its ship in a way that we've never seen before is Arrival.
Yes.
I think, like, when I saw Arrival, and you had the same feeling too, is that like, okay, well, first of all, I've never seen an alien ship look like that, like a big fat oval. And then they go in and there's this like big projector type screen, but the aliens don't look like anything we've seen, And so it's like, we all have an idea of what aliens look like in our mind, which is an alien from Signs or Close Encounters.
But you're talking about like the traditional green, like big black eyes, like the 1950s, like Roswell alien.
Totally.
Yeah.
And there's a place for that. I'm not judging that. But like, I love that this there's true creativity when it comes to just being like, we're going to design something that you've never seen before.
Some of my favorite shit is just stuff you haven't seen before. And it doesn't always have to be grotesque. It can just be weird. Like, I remember we talked about that when we did the podcast for Hereditary. Remember how you asked me, like, what made it scary? And I said, a lot of the horror is weird. Like, the nature of the possessions is just weird.
One of my favorite fucking cuts in this movie, and this is maybe where we can transition to the editing, is Kane gets attacked by the facehugger thing when he's looking at the egg, a little too curious, right? What this movie does brilliantly, every time there's an attack that happens, something crazy happens, it cuts away so quickly before you can even process it. So when Kane gets attacked, it cuts so quickly to this wide of the ship with the wind howling in the back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, God. You know, that's like shit you dream of.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I mean, like, when I took an editing class as well,
Yeah.
we studied the air vent scene when Dallas is in the air vent with the flamethrower.
That's the scene when you're talking about film editing.
Yeah, it's one of the pinnacle, like, how to build suspense and how to have, like, tension, even through the sound design of having that repeating beep noise that's almost like a metronome of the motion detector. And it's just so fucking intense. How you don't know where it is, and how Lambert's trying to say it's moving towards you. Wait, it's not. You know, I don't see it anymore.
And Lambert, in the nicest way I can say it, is kind of a wet blanket throughout the entire movie. Yeah. Fucking works, though, because...
And realistically so,
I would probably be Lambert. I'm not gonna lie. But, like, I feel like Lambert's crying and kind of like, it's supposed to be close to you. It's, like, adding more to the tension, you know?
Yeah. Well, in realistic worry, because at this point, the stakes are real. You know, people have been dying, and Dallas is out in the fucking air vent where the alien might be.
And I think before this scene also, like, it was Lambert who was saying, let's just take an escape ship and blow this fucking thing up. Why are we trying to... It's like, no, we need to kill it, right? And
well, they couldn't fit. They couldn't all fit. That was one of the reasons, too.
And then Dallas dies. Oh, yeah, that was one of the reasons they couldn't fit. But it was also, like, it's like... And Parker was so adamant of, like, no, let's kill it, right? And then, once Dallas dies, it's almost just like... there's this moment where they're just like, okay, let's blow this place up into the safe ship, and it cuts to Lambert.
Yeah.
Kind of just like not really crying immensely, but just being like giving like a whole "I told you so" type of deal.
Yeah. Like, all roads lead to us getting out of here. We're not going to outsmart this thing.
Oh no, I think that was after Ash died. I think that was like the end all be all where they finally decided to take the escape ship, and that's when it cuts to Lambert. But yeah, I mean, anyways, when it comes to the sound design and editing, the vent scene is a perfect example. I mean, that beautiful shot of its hand, be like,
yeah, where it's about to basically hug Dallas. That's the ongoing joke, is he's just reaching out to him. Hey, buddy. But yeah, it does the same thing that you mentioned, where it does the loud jump scare and then it hard cuts to static.
Well, it never uses also music to build tension or drive tension. It only uses like the machines of the ship.
Yeah, it's like its own score.
Yeah, it's so brilliant. I mean, that takes like an immense amount of creativity and work to pull that off in a realistic way. So, well, okay, one more thing, and then I think I can transition to this, is when it comes to like not using music, the scene where like Ash is trying to kill Ripley, you know, where it takes like he takes like that porno mag and tries to stuff it down her face.
Yeah, it's it's a weird way to try to kill someone. Like, any lesser filmmaker could have just had him try to strangle her or whatever it is, use a knife or any of that stuff.
But I feel like part of Ash's way of thinking is like, this is the most efficient way to do it.
And have no one hear her too.
Yes. Yeah, it's no, that's the key, right? Then, I'm kind of out of nowhere, Parker and Lambert just come and try to like pull Ash away, but still it's pretty quiet. And then Ash starts like fucking whizzing out.
Yeah.
That's like the part that gets me. That's the equivalent, if we're talking about Hereditary, that's the equivalent of Toni Collette banging her head against the attic door.
Yeah, it's weird horror. I don't know what you call it. I don't know if there's a proper name for it, but just horror that's like...
kind of absurdist, maybe?
Yeah, I didn't even know if it was... Yeah, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah. But, okay, so this is... I want to get to this real quick. This is like... We can just touch on it. We don't have to go deep into it. But this is like another like film bro nerdy take I have, is David Fincher, huge fan of this movie. Like probably many filmmakers are, you know, who grew up like in the 70s or whatever, or like were kids in the late 70s. And it's one of the reasons why he took the Alien 3 job. Now, obviously, there's that story of like 20th Century Fox basically ripping the movie away from him, and he had like a lot of deals, and basically the end result is not the movie he's proud of, and he still doesn't like that movie.
Yeah.
But you can tell this guy, David Fincher, is a Ridley Scott like Alien fan from his movies. So I wrote down, just when it comes to like the patience and efficient filmmaking that I keep stressing throughout this entire podcast, I said like the emphasis on realism, the disdain for corporate America, it makes it like very clear why this was David Fincher's favorite movie. even the performances, which is like, you know, David Fincher known, Ridley Scott doesn't do this, but I know David Fincher is known for like the famous 99 takes and like just doing a crazy amount of repetition with its actors, exhausting them to the point where like when they're on screen, they look exhausted, which is adding to the tone of the movie. If you look at Jake Gyllenhaal in Zodiac or Social Network with Jesse Eisenberg and Andrew Garfield, right? And like in this movie, the performances seem exhausted and weathered, not just after people start getting killed, but before in the beginning. They all looked weathered. And it just feels there's this, again, emphasis on realism.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
And it's just very clear, like, David Fincher is kind of doing that through all his movies. Like, Alien reaches across that, too, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to pull that off, too, because, like, the characters obviously are not quippy. They're not, like, you know, adventure protagonists, right? This ain't no The Mummy or something where it's pulp fun. But it's hard to pull that off because, like, then when you don't have, like, any characterization at all, you get movies like Fantastic, you know, where it's like everyone's just weird and cold and no chemistry. But somehow with this movie, there is chemistry between them.
Well, yeah, you can still have, like, rich characters, but with a tone of coldness, you know?
Yeah, they have, like, real personalities and have values.
A movie that does this really well, that is clearly, like, you know, inspired by this movie, is Sunshine, the Danny Boyle movie.
Okay.
It has like kind of a similar vibe where these people have been on a mission for a while. Something dire happens. They're all kind of fucked. But it's a different vibe for sure. But you watch Sunshine, you can
feel the influences
very heavily in a great way. I do feel like it's a great like evolution. Do you want to talk a little bit about? I think you want to talk about the ending now.
First, can we talk about Ash's death scene a little bit?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought like we touched on it a little bit towards the beginning of the movie when I went on my cynical fucking rant about Elon Musk. Yeah, but let's talk about it.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite scene in the movie, you know. I like that scene a lot. I think it's so perfectly and precisely written, and something about the whatever you call it, the audio filter that they put on Ash's voice is so satisfying. Like once he's now the severed head and he's in maximum robot mode.
Well, just the idea of fucking milk as blood.
Oh yeah. I know. Well, he's like sweating it at first.
It's like true invention.
Yeah. I remember when the androids are in alien isolation, they have the milk blood too, and I was like, ooh, they did the milk blood.
In Aliens, there's that great scene towards the beginning where they have an AI robot with the crew. And when Ripley sees that it has it nicked its finger while they're having lunch, and he sees its blood, Ripley immediately goes berserk on it just because she has those memories, right? And they're like, "How the fuck are you guys still letting these people in?" And basically, that movie, I don't know if you remember, but it's all this redemption of the robot kind of.
Yeah, like having a good robot.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, I think overall though, just having its whole speech, and you had it written down. If you want to read it out for us, because I don't want to butcher it, because anything I say is going to be lesser than what is actually written on the page.
You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? The perfect organism. Its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility. You admire it. I admire its purity. A survivor unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality. And then he says, last word. Can't lie to you about your chances, bud. You have my sympathies. That's the kind of vibe I was trying to give off when I was reading my synopsis.
Yeah. Maybe we'll put a little filter on your voice when you do it, just to kind of add the atmosphere. But yeah, no, I think, unclouded by consciousness. Like that's just a weakness. You know, the only one that blindly follows the orders of the corporation is the android. And I feel like that's just such interesting and poetic storytelling.
Well, that's the reason why I went on the rant that I did. It's just like, it fucking affects me.
You have to lose your humanity to create an effective business, basically, is what it's trying to say.
Yeah.
Or have no humanity. Not even lose it, but just have none of it.
It's like very... You can't help but feel this like pit in your stomach when you watch that.
Yeah, yeah. I know. And it's funny because it's a movie about a, alien with a long, sharp tail with a big old sharp mouth. But my favorite scene is the dead robot scene.
I mean, it's brilliant, man. It's also just great dialogue. I think my favorite line is that its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that's just like an all-timer.
I admire its purity.
Again, it's so complicated who actually wrote like a big chunk of the screenplay. I think it's O'Bannon has taken the full credit, but there's so much controversy around like the rewrites and who wrote what.
Sure.
So I wish I could give like actual credit, and maybe people in the comments can correct us or whatever.
Yeah, whoever wrote the line, thank you, whichever one it is, I'm just going to put it out on the universe.
You have my sympathies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so are you ready to talk about the ending?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so this is now everyone. I don't want to yada yada through it, but everyone dies.
Yeah, everyone dies. Ripley basically makes a plan to self-destruct the entire ship and escape. And is that where you want to take it, basically? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Because, yeah, she rigs the bomb to explode, and it does this crazy countdown saying you have, 10 minutes, 3 minutes until there's like a point of no return. And she works her way through all these strobe lights. And this is the one part of the movie that I actually don't enjoy watching, is how intense and disorienting those strobe lights get.
Oh man, but it's so cool.
No, it's amazing.
When it cuts to her, like her close up with the lights, and she's trying to like roll away.
It's a personal thing for me because I don't know what it is, but strobe lights I just don't like looking at, and I don't have any disease or anything that makes it.
Well, I think most people, they don't have to have epilepsy, but most people just don't like looking at that.
Yeah, so that's the one part of the movie where I'm like, wow, that's too much. I think I wish it was a little different. That's just me. I get it. Trust me, I get it if other people disagree. But anyway, so she goes, works her way through. And then sees right at the fucking entrance is the xenomorph just there, just peering around like a little stinker.
Chris is doing a great impression of the xenomorph, which is basically wide-eyed and excited.
That's what it's doing, though. It's literally just like,
Chris is basically acting like if xenomorph was Mr. Bean.
I just got a clear image of just like Rowan Atkinson's head on the xenomorph.
Just like wide-eyed, really excited.
Another little mouth comes out of Rowan Atkinson.
And he's wearing like, the xenomorph is actually wearing this like, patchy suit. Like, it's just...
And he just makes little noises.
Yeah, we already talked about it, how it saves the cat. I don't want to get into that again. But I think this is like, I wish I was in the theater for this moment. But she basically escapes with the pod, right? Blows the ship up. It's this like victorious moment. It's the only time in the movie where like a score kicks in.
Yeah, it feels like real relief.
Yeah, where like a real like Hollywood movie score kicks in, right?
Yeah.
Which I should say, damn, do I not have it written down? Who did the music for this? Okay, so Jerry Goldsmith did the music. But a real score kicks in, she escapes, and she puts the cat in the little cryo chamber. And she says that, I got you, bitch. Right? Mm-hmm. She says bitch.
Got you, son of a bitch. Yeah.
I got you, son of a bitch. Yeah. I mean, also Ripley saying bitch is just a classic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it comes to an all-time high in Aliens, for obvious reasons. Get away from her, you bitch. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's iconic.
But the moment I wish I was in the theater for Alien is when Ripley finds out the alien's in there.
Oh, and it's like a jump scare too, because she goes and there's like a pile of like what are they like, tanks or something like that in the wall.
Yeah,
and it kind of blends in
so well.
Yeah,
I always forget it's like that.
And his little hand just pops out.
So here's the thing: I know it's in there. I've seen that scene on YouTube also many times. I always forget that it's masked so well.
Yeah, and part of me also always just wonders, like, what did it do? Did it just go and just get a little cozy in the ship or in the pod?
Well, yeah, I mean, this makes our Mr. Bean theory even more clear, that it is kind of a slapstick comedian, the xenomorph.
Well, because, like, it didn't immediately attack her, right? It's one thing if he was hiding and then just jumped out and got her.
Yeah.
But almost felt like it was waking up, like it was resting in there.
It was in slumber.
Yeah, it was like taking a nap.
Yeah, it was kind of just like, oh. And it's still kind of asleep. Like, it's not immediately in attack mode. And You Are My Lucky Star, she just starts singing while putting on a suit. Yeah. What I love about it is that you don't know exactly what her plan is, but as she's putting on her suit, you're putting it together. I wish I was in the theater for this because, like, I don't know, man. Imagine everyone realizing it's still in there and everyone being like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. You think for a second she's victorious, and then it turns out that it's like this perfect, like, it reminds me, this is like a weird pull, but like at the end of Back to the Future,
Yeah.
you know how like they barely get the thing to plug in time when the car hits the perfect spot.
Oh yeah, it's the perfect third act.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like that last minute thing to stress you out. Because you think everything's all ready to go and you're, okay, cool, we achieved the mission. And then there's that last second of like, no, you didn't actually.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to... And you also need to do that thing where you're like, this thing that is the perfect organism, we need to see it die. We can't just have it die off screen in an explosion. We need to see it because that's how this movie works. Again, it's that Ridley Scott efficient storytelling thing, which is like, this needs to happen. This is how stories should work. But she sings My Lucky Star. Fucking... blows it out into space.
I know. Well, and even like the My Lucky Star moment, how like it drowns out like all sound. You just hear her heavy breathing, quietly singing to herself, clearly like shitting her pants.
And you're also through sound design, you're in the costume with her.
Exactly.
Because you can't hear anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so eerie, I mean, it's so well done because you feel the tension, because you feel like you're literally Ripley at that moment.
Also, there's this relief. I think it was a smart by like the writers and whoever it was, but to put the cat in the cryo chamber so it doesn't also fall out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have that security of knowing
imagine how,
the cat's safe.
Imagine how much of a bummer it would be if like Xenomorph flies up, but also the cat's like,
They both just fly together. I made a joke. Okay, so just to wrap it up though. Yeah, and even when it gets blown out of the ship, how it's still attached because of the little rope dart thing that she shoots out into it.
So she actually has to like blow it out.
Yeah, it has to be physically separated from it because it's just holding onto the ship.
It's like impossible to get rid of.
But you feel that relief. But point is, it flies out into space, and then she gives that amazing last sign off of like how everyone's dead and I'm just floating out. Hopefully I'll get picked up. And says, this is Ellen Ripley signing off, or whatever she says. And you know how it kind of fades down, you see space, and then the credits start to roll, music. I always made the joke of like, what if the credits were just the alien just kind of floating? Like while the credits are going, you literally just see the alien just there doing a little like just kind of looking around, not sure what to do.
Just kind of stuck there like, awkward.
Looks at the camera, shrugs.
Okay, so this movie's perfect. It's the perfect movie. It was an amazing rewatch. It didn't feel like homework. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes when we do this podcast, it does feel like, okay, we're required to watch this.
You got to take time out to watch this and study it.
This was like, oh my God, what a great day to spend my morning. Because I literally watched it this morning. But I have a little game for you. I think we're starting to add segments here. You know what I mean? We're starting to add stuff to this podcast, Chris. This is podcasting we're doing here.
Well, you know what's funny is like it's kind of coming full circle because the very first podcast we did, we organized like a list of our favorite action scenes from Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And then we're like, let's not do segments. Let's just talk. And then it's like, oh no, let's do segments again.
So this segment is, I think we can bring this in for whenever we do like a horror movie or thriller or something like that. We're calling it What Would You Do? Which is a new segment where we place ourselves into scenes/moments to see what we would do, what Chris and Altaf, the nice dudes, would do. Okay, but I'm going to ask you and then we can both discuss. So I wrote these down separately. You don't know these. Would you look inside the egg? So when they enter the ship and Kane is like observing the egg and is kind of really being a little too curious, if you see that there's a life form in it, I would just fucking run away from it.
Fair enough. I'd probably keep my distance from it, but I wouldn't be able to look away. Like, I'm not the type of person, like, when bugs and shit are around, like, I like watching that stuff. Or even, like, when I'm at the doctor and, this is going to be gross to some people, so I apologize if this grosses you out, but I had an ingrown toenail when I was in high school. Did I tell you that story? Did you know that?
No.
And I had to get, like, surgery on it, essentially, but I was awake for it. They had to numb my toe. They put like 3 shots in my toe.
God.
Again, sorry if this is grossing people out or whatever, but I watched the entire thing. I literally was just staring like, wow, why are they doing that?
Yeah, you do have this morbid curiosity about you that I respect. So next thing is everyone's pairing up in twos. Who would you want to be paired up with?
Okay, wait, what scenario were they being paired up in?
They were basically, they were trying to find the xenomorph.
Okay, they were just working, like spreading out to find it, and...
Brett's dead.
Oh, it's... Okay. Xenomorph is an adult at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no.
Is it when the xenomorph was a baby
I think so.
and they were looking for it? Okay, so I'm just trying to let that determine my decision making here.
Okay.
I mean, on paper, I feel like I connect with Parker a bit. Like I can, like when I was working, normal jobs,
Yeah.
I was the one who was like, okay, am I getting paid for this? Okay, I'm not doing that. If I'm not getting paid, I want to go home.
Yeah,
I was
again,
that guy.
I feel like we have to stress that like we are not people. We're people in the movie. We haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
So it can't just be like an easy, of course, Ripley, because
Yeah.
we know how the movie ends, right? So we got to look at it from their perspective.
Yeah.
Parker was my first go-to. I would also be pro Dallas, even though I know what happens to Dallas. Again, I'm a character in the movie. I feel like I would feel safe with Dallas.
That's actually really true. That's a good point. Like Parker, I feel like I'd want to have good camaraderie with. Like, okay, let's go do this stupid task. But like Dallas, like I feel like he would make smart decisions and effectively use me and my skills too.
Right, exactly. Okay, so next one is your crewmate has a monster burst out of its chest. How quickly are you trying to take the escape ship and fuck the mission? Just being like, I'm leaving. Like, are you doing that, or are you sticking with the crew, see what everyone's doing? Because if you find out everyone's sticking around trying to see what happens, or trying to find the alien, but there's an escape, are you taking that?
Okay. So you're saying like, would I just try to escape before even bothering trying to find the alien and contain it and destroy
like
it?
You just saw, because for me, if I just saw a monster burst out of the chest, if there's like a way to get out of this, I don't care if I'm not getting any money, or even if I'm going to jail. I don't want to die.
Yeah, I think like it'd be hard for me to leave my crewmates behind. You know, I think that's the main thing is like, I feel like I don't want to be that guy that takes the one and only escape pod. I'd probably try to talk everyone else like, guys, we need to just figure out a way out of here.
Well, in movies like that, where there's like one scaredy cat, that guy dies first. So it's always like,
Because like, even when I did work fast food and whatever, all those things, I usually stuck around for the crewmates, or coworkers, whatever you want to call them.
Chris, don't tell me anymore. I've seen The Bear. I know what that dynamic's like. It's like a family in there.
I've seen The Bear. I get it.
I've worked in a restaurant too. Like it's a team.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be able to just let that part go and be like, see ya.
Yeah, and they've also spent like probably years together. So like, it's and then would you save the cat?
Would I save the cat? No,
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either.
Honestly, I mean, I know, because like for a second I was like, oh, I would just assume the cat dies, but no, Ripley heard the cat meow. That's what made her go get it.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. It depends. If it's like my cat, if it's my animal, maybe I feel differently.
I'm still not doing it though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, this was What Would You Do? Thank you so much for you guys for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate our patrons for supporting us again and again. And last but not least, stay nice, dudes.
Booyah!
You gotta stop, dude. You really gotta stop. Like, I fucking can't, man.